Let's skip the foreplay. Your eyes already undressed me. Before your hands ever touched skin, you'd stripped away the layers I wore to hide my hunger. You walked into the room, and your stare pinned me in place, like heat on glass, like sunlight focused into flame. I felt your gaze travel slowly over me, not just seeing but reading, not just admiring, but claiming. My breath caught when your eyes lingered, there, just there, and my thighs pressed tight, like they already knew what came next. You didn't speak, not at first, because words would have been too crude for the subtle language your glance had already written. Every flutter of your lashes was punctuation, every narrowing of your gaze a deepening command. I wasn't waiting to be seduced. I was already unraveling. Something primal pulsed between us. I didn't need your fingers to slide my dress off. Your look did that. It peeled me open, without resistance, exposing every inch of want I thought I could hide. In that moment, there was no shy hesitation. There was only breath, fire, and the promise in your eyes. I tried to pretend your gaze didn't affect me, that the flicker in your eyes wasn't setting off tremors under my skin, but my body betrayed me before I could even think of restraint. My nipples hardened beneath the fabric, like they heard your silent call. My breath hitched, deepened, as if my lungs were preparing for how much of you I'd need to inhale. It was maddening how your eyes could graze my inner thigh without a single touch, how your stare slid up my legs like smoke, teasing, thick, warm. When our eyes met again, you smirked, knowing you'd already claimed me, and I hated how much I liked it. I hated how wet I was, how ready, how the ache had bloomed just from the weight of your attention. The room faded, the chatter around us dulled into background, static. All I could hear was the rush of blood in my ears, and the whisper of your pupils tracing my curves. You didn't ask for permission, you didn't need to. My body had already said yes. The space between us crackled like a wire charged, like a note held too long, trembling on the edge of explosion. You crossed the room slowly, deliberately, like a man who already owned the outcome. And I stood there, pulse raging in my neck, thighs clenching with every slow step you took. There was something wicked in your smile, something that promised I wouldn't leave untouched. My skin anticipated you, lighting up inch by inch with phantom caresses. You finally reached me, and though you hadn't laid a single finger yet, my whole body felt branded by you. I swayed closer without realizing, drawn in by the heat of you, by the gravity your desire exerted on my bones. Your breath touched my cheek, and I shivered. "You're trembling," you whispered, voice like a velvet threat, and I was trembling with want, trembling with the anticipation of what came next. Your hand hovered near my waist, but never touched. You didn't need to. That gaze had already unraveled me. You'd found my softest places before a single word was spoken. You didn't ask me if I wanted you. You didn't have to. My body had written that answer in slick heat and flushed skin. The air around us pressed thick with need, and I didn't care who saw, didn't care if the whole world witnessed the way I surrendered without protest. My lips parted, not for words but for the breath I needed to steady myself, and still your fingers hadn't even landed. Your eyes remained locked on mine, and in them I saw every filthy thing you intended. My knees almost buckled under the weight of that promise. You were still silent, but my body spoke plenty, arching slightly forward, chest rising in anticipation, heart pounding like it knew what kind of music your touch would make. I wanted it. I wanted all of it. I wanted to feel your mouth bruising mine, your hands closing around my hips like chains. I wanted you inside me without pretense, without patience. The foreplay was done. You devoured me with your eyes already. My skin begged for the rest of you. Then your hand finally touched me, and I nearly came apart from the sheer relief of it. You gripped my waist like you were claiming territory, your fingers sinking in just enough to remind me this was real. You tugged me closer until there was no space between us, until every line of my body met the heat of yours. And God, you were hot, searing like your skin was trying to brand mine with memory. You leaned down and kissed my neck, slow and possessive, like you were tasting the reward you'd earned with just a look. I gasped, not from surprise, but from the way my core clenched in response. Every nerve was screaming your name in languages I'd forgotten I knew. You didn't ask if I was ready, you knew. The way my hips pressed into yours, the way my breath stuttered, the way my fingers clawed at your back. You peeled away my dress like you'd done it 1,000 times in your head. No hesitation, no apology. You took, and I gave greed for greed, want for want. I couldn't think anymore. My brain had been replaced by instinct, by fire, by the rhythm of your mouth on mine, and your body pressed hard against every inch of me. You kissed like you owned time, like there was nothing beyond the four walls that held our heat. I moaned into your mouth, and you swallowed it like it fueled you. My back hit the wall, and you followed, hand sliding between my thighs, with a confidence that made me tremble. You didn't fumble, didn't explore like a stranger. You moved like a man who knew the map of me before his fingers ever touched. When you found how soaked I was, you didn't smile, you just growled. Low, dangerous, delicious. My legs wrapped around your hips as if they'd been waiting all night for this moment, for this press of cock against needy center. There were no sweet nothings, no gentle promises, just rawness, lust, pressure. Your hand slipped down and in, and I gasped again, head thrown back, thighs squeezing, mouth begging without words. You didn't give me time to adjust, you gave me need, unrelenting. I was already slick, already pulsing, and when your fingers thrust deep, I arched so hard it felt like my spine might crack. You fucked me with your hand like your eyes had already written the instructions. I didn't have to guide you. I didn't have to speak, you knew. You curled your fingers just right, just there, and I cried out like prayer. Oh, and sin were the same sound. Your mouth found my nipple, dragging tongue over peak, sucking until I was shaking and panting and desperate for more. I gripped your hair, hips grinding into your hand, chasing that high I'd been teetering on since you first looked at me. You added a third finger, and I broke, hips jerking, mouth moaning your name like a hymn I'd never forget. Your lips moved to my mouth, and you kissed me hard, hungry, as my orgasm tore through me, sudden and loud and all-consuming. Still your fingers moved, coaxing every drop of pleasure, every pulse of need. You didn't stop, even after I shuddered through the aftershocks. You kept your fingers deep inside me, moving slowly now, torturing. Your tongue licked my lower lip as if to say, I'm not done. And I knew, my body knew. The look in your eyes told me there was more, so much more. You pulled back just enough to turn me, pressing my front to the wall, lifting my hips like I weighed nothing. I moaned at the cool air, hitting my flushed skin, my ass bare, my sex throbbing. Your palm landed with a crack that made me gasp. One sharp slap, followed by a soothing caress. Then another. You marked me, not with bruises, but with possession. When you entered me from behind, there was no mercy, just depth, force, a rhythm that made my knees buckle, and my voice cry out in raw, unfiltered pleasure. You fucked me like a man who had waited years, like every thrust was a promise kept. I pressed my hands against the wall and took every inch, every moan, every beat of that savage rhythm. You whispered filth in my ear as you took me, voice low and wrecked with want. You were mine. The second I saw you, you begged for this with your eyes. No one's ever made you this wet. Every word made me tighten around you, made me push back harder into every rest. You were right. You had claimed me with a glance, and now you were confirming that claim with every pulse of your cock inside. My second orgasm came quicker than the first, raw, ripped from me with a scream I couldn't suppress. My walls spasmed around, and you held me firm, riding out the quake of my body, until I was boneless and panting. Only then did you let go. You spilled inside me with a guttural groan, gripping my hips like you never wanted to let go. And I didn't want you to. I didn't want this heat to end. We stood there for a moment, breath mingling, your seed dripping between my thighs, your chest against my back, still, breathless, claimed. After we said nothing, what was there to say? Words would have cheapened it, would have tried to define it. Something too raw, too carnal to be named. We redressed slowly, the room thick with sweat and silence. But your eyes, they never stopped speaking. They lingered on my lips, my ears, my ears, to see.
Like they hadn't had enough.
And maybe they hadn't. Maybe we'd never be done. Maybe the foreplay you skipped had only just begun in reverse. I walked away sore and marked, your fingerprints blooming like tattoos on my skin. But inside, I was raw with memories, filled with something too deep to forget. Your gaze had undone me, your hands had remade me. You'd taken me beyond lust, beyond pleasure, into something sacred, wordless, perfect. Even now, I feel your stare in places you never touched. See your eyes in every mirror, every dark corner of my bed. The world can talk about love and lust, but I know this foreplay begins and ends in the gaze of someone who sees all of you and takes you without apology.